water before the show. Right now we are setting for a third show, which is a joust to the death.
Joust to the death!
Different shows. Noon, half past the hour of 2 and 5.
Cindy, hold on.
I'm Kent Shelton, one of the oldest members of the company, and you see the job that I have. Because it still must go on, just like our years of jousting. This goes on, this large pile. We're here at the Arizona Renaissance Festival. They built us a beautiful arena over there. It's almost 4,500 people. The stables right here can be seen by the audiences, unlike a lot of the other stables at fairs where they're backstage. So they made them very nicely done architecturally. So that's why we have to have a wooden wheelbarrow like this, because we're on stage, even when we're cleaning up the stalls. So I'm going to park it here and go into the clubhouse.
My name is Steve Cowan, and I'm one of the partners in the Hanlon Action Theater, and I've been jousting since 1984. So this has been a long and bumpy road, but something I wouldn't trade for anything. And so this is my favorite part of the show.
My name is Joe, Joseph Hunt, or Evil Joe, and I'm a squire and a salesperson for the Hanlon Action Theater. Basically, my job is we're live tech. We make sure the knights get what they need. We make sure the props are removed and put in place at the right time. And we make sure that the crowd is really into the joust that they're going to see. It's all about putting on a great show.
Hi, I'm Matthew Stratton. I'm head squire for the Hanlon Action Theater here in Arizona. What I'm doing right now is I'm checking over armor for any dings, scratches, dents, anything that could be polished, buffed out, popped rivets, busted leathers, anything that has dried blood stuck to it will normally hose off. Luckily this is a stainless steel, so it doesn't need any buffing, polishing, or waxing. So we just basically do a hose off and a sponging. Most of the other armor is just a cold rolled steel, and once we clean, we normally have to oil and spray it with a WD-40.
Busted a strap. Can you fix that?
Yep. Again, this is what we also look for: is just pop rivets and studs, straps that have snapped during normal wear and tear. That's pretty much my duties as head squire. It's just to clean the goo off the armor after the guys are done playing rockstar.
This is Action Theater. This is
we could really die. We could really get messed up. We sometimes do. Anything happens. But we safety first.
Only had to have my myself stitched up a few times and my knee rebuilt, and that's about it.
I remember like one of the first jousts I did in armor in Boston. Went to do a dismount. My leg got caught in the opening of the McClellan saddle. I'm hanging upside down, and the horse's hooves are just, you know, right by my head. And I'm thinking, I'll bet you a lot of people died this way.
Yeah, I've been bit, I've been stomped.
You know, we never had any injuries until we started wearing armor, and we only started wearing armor because the audiences started demanding it. You know, we started actually losing jobs because the other companies were in full armor, knights in full armor. That's what they want. They saw the picture, and that's what they want. They didn't really care that, you know, one show is better than the other, one show is different than the other. They just want to see knights in armor. So we had to start wearing armor.
Most common headgear in medieval times worn by anyone. A coif. Hello.
Of course, there's, you know, 600 years of different kinds of armor. So we compromise.
They're like two completely different styles. The Crusader or the barrel helm was the earlier version. Then they realized, hey, when we get hit in the top of the head, it crushes. So they made the Sugarloaf design, which is a conical bullet point, and it's actually angled to deflect the blows of a sword or a spear or any type of cutting or smashing instrument.
Armor's very protective, but at the same time, improperly worn, it's actually more detrimental to you. You can actually get more injured by your own armor than somebody attacking you if it's improperly worn.
It has to be slung from the shoulders above the hips, you know, it has to be hung right. You have to know it's on your body.
You can break a rib, break an arm, dislocate a shoulder, puncture a kidney.
It's a costume that hurts.
How's that? Fine, thanks. Ow! This is known as partial plate. It was early medieval to mid-medieval times. This would be worn with chain and then a surcoat over it. This is what the Crusaders pretty much wore. Armor ended up getting used for everything. Got used for people, got used for carts, got used for horses, and eventually it just got so heavy that they really weren't that effective anymore, and all of a sudden these people came up with this really great concept called a gun. This originated pretty much from a farm instrument. This is a flail. And what this would do, they thresh the wheat. Then they realized, you know, if we start hitting people instead of, you know, wheat, I really think we could do some damage here. Plus, a lot of the weapons, you have to remember in medieval times, were for the peasant soldier as well. And nobody was issued. It wasn't, hey, welcome to the army, you get a sword and a shield and a little hat. No, it was, you're in the army, here's your spear or whatever, and, you know, fend for yourself. So they pretty much made whatever they could, or brought whatever they could to war. One-handed war axe. Mace. This is one of the great swords. It's called a sword breaker. Then we have this bizarre, ugly, twisted, evil-looking thing, which is called a boar's head. Halberds, one of the latest. They came out really late in the Renaissance, or actually early Renaissance, late medieval. You have the axe blade right here, and this part was what you would actually arc back and swing. You would chink and catch the knight as he's riding by and just rip him off, and it would pretty much suck because, you know, that hurts. The theater thing is we want something that is all steel. A lot of people think that the stuff that is used is aluminum. It's not. I've dropped it on my foot. Aluminum doesn't hurt. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying when I say that this is for theater. You can really, really, really do a lot of damage with this. If you don't know what you're doing, or if you get too excited, or if you miss your mark, you can hurt, maim, incapacitate, or worse. But we don't like to think about that here.
When I was in New York City in '79, I was just coming out of acting school, and we all were into the skills thing. We all learned to juggle, and we all learned acrobatics and sword fighting. We were really into physical skills. So when I was in New York, I was, of course, looking for all these things and found a book called Clowns. I bought it because it talked about clowns and juggling and all this, and came across a section in it about the Hanlon brothers. Dickie Ellis had been to Switzerland studying with the famous clown Dimitri. And I sent him the book, Clowns, while I was in New York, and said, read this on the Hanlon brothers. This is what we want to do. This is what I think this is what we're about.
So Dickie and Kent really got into the researching the Hanlon brothers and Professor Lees, and we were becoming this ensemble group, and we needed a title, a handle of some kind, and they suggested we try to emulate these guys.
And of all the artists that we read about, the Hanlon brothers spoke to each of us separately. And so when I said, what about the Hanlon brothers, it was unanimous.
I'm pretty sure it was Alms who tacked on action theater. And we thought I'd never heard action theater used before. They use it a lot now, but Hanlon Lee's Action Theater, that became her name.
Had we really known the extent of their talent, we probably wouldn't have had the courage to take the name now.
They are English, the Hanlon brothers, and they came over to this country to do their acrobatic trapeze show. This fellow, Professor Lees, here in America, organized them into their own kind of circus. This is all pre-vaudeville. They did some amazing stuff and eventually started writing shows that they did on Broadway that we would love to try to revamp. Some of these live action stunt shows. Amazing, huge extravaganzas.
This is the kind of stuff that we were interested in. Big extravaganza theater that involved acting, that involved stunt work, that involved circus skills.
The most famous one is called A Trip to Switzerland. They would ride onto stage with a horse and carriage that would explode. The horse would run off and everyone would come flying out of the carriage, and the pieces would land as tables and chairs, and they would land there sitting, sipping tea, and go into the next bit.
They were both ingenious and ingenuous. They created incredible magic tricks that are still done now by Doug Hennings, etc. The brace that holds up the stage flag is called the Hanlon.
They introduced the trapeze to the United States. They didn't invent it, but they introduced it.
They invented the net.
Because one of them fell and landed in the audience and lived. They decided that wasn't a great idea, so they invented the net to catch them.
For years, people were doing trapeze work in old theaters and swinging over top of the audience.
And if you go to the patent office, look through their series of patents that they have, you'll see that the safety net is one of their inventions. Before them, there was no flying set pieces. They brought it to the theater and used it successfully the way they used it to fly. And I remember reading a review by Emile Zola, who said that even though you could see the strings and ropes holding these objects up, the tremendous volume of flying objects overwhelmed him.
They were juggling forks and knives, and they had huge extravaganza stuff on. They had trains going across the stage, and a guy would fall out of the train and fall underneath the thing, and he'd get decapitated. So they were doing big stage tricks and illusions, and they had horses on stage. They also were theatrical people. They went on to do not just circus type stuff, but as they got older, they started doing plays that had circus techniques in the plays. Dickie found out, and he lives right next to the Edison Museum. He lives in New Jersey. So he found out that the Hanlon brothers had filmed one of their stage plays. Edison had actually filmed it. They filmed Phantasma. That's supposedly what we're gonna find one day when we track down all this stuff. Now in Phantasma, it's not gonna be the actual Hanlon brothers because they were too old at that time. It's gonna be their sons though, which will be still cool, but they were directing the shows.
I think their audiences responded really positively to them because they had never seen anything like that before.
They used their acrobatics theatrically to move the show along. That's sort of what we wanted to emulate.
They would mount a costume rig in a window frame that you really couldn't see. But by diving through the window and coming out the other side, boom, you're another character.
They had their own studios in Cohasset, Massachusetts, which we were lucky enough to go to the town and talk to the museum curator there who remembered them and showed us a few of their actual props.
When we did the Boston show, we went down there one year, and the town father, Mr. Pratt, took us around and showed us their old house and pulled out a bunch of blueprints, and we actually used one of their gags.
Tasso got the exact design of one of the Hanlon brothers' decapitation blocks, and we built it and put a decapitation in our show.
We always have a realistic death. I mean, lots of bloodletting. The fights are fantastic, and there's blood, and the blood is realistic, and the death is very realistic. What we didn't realize, I don't think, is that there are young children, babies and infants who come to these shows, and they see that, and it's very difficult for them to discern what's theatrical and what's real.
At the end of the show, we would take the knight, we would put him on a knight's burial thing, we would cover him up, and we would set him on fire. And I know I think it upset children.
So they see someone get stabbed in the eye or their throat slashed, blood spurting, and the guy dies, and he gets carried away. That guy's dead. And if that guy just happened to be their particular night, where their family was cheering, yay, yay, and they see him die, that's a kind of a stressful thing for this little child. And we would frequently get parents coming back after the show with crying baby, can you please explain that you're not dead? Hi, yes, I'm not dead. Look, it's fake blood, and it just tastes like syrup. And we had to explain it to them afterwards, which was fine for us, and hopefully it helped them. But it bothered me very much that whole situation would happen. So I finally fixed it. Everybody died. I killed everybody. And then the Master of Arms says this is unacceptable. These men have all fought bravely, and we have to come back and do another show. So he would get down and pray us back to life. And we'd all just pop back up. Yay! Thank you, we're fine. Sorry about the dagger in the eye. That's all right, it happens all the time.
We wanted to get the show back to a classic sort of fairy tale sort of thing, and we'd been doing the more realistic recreation of a joust, which works very well. I mean, it has a lot of impact. But with all the stuff happening, we thought maybe we would try to contribute in a more positive way to it. Yes, there's death and everything, but then this is all fantasy, and get back to a sort of a nice, good ending so that the kids walk away untraumatized.
Let the show begin!
There's nothing like it. I mean, the adrenaline rush that you get when you come into an arena and there's 5,000 people screaming your name.
None of us are totally mentally balanced, in my opinion, for doing. If we do this for a career.
There's nothing like having 5,000 people yelling, screaming, booing, hating, loving you and what you're doing.
We shoot for the moon, and sometimes we miss, but at least we shoot for it, and people are really, people really appreciate that.
No one was doing jousting the way we did it until we did it in 1979.
Live theater is the best. Live theater is what it's all about. You can't get anything better than live theater. It's not controlled. It's wild. You have an idea of what you want.
All right, let's do saddle falls.
You work and work and work it, but then at some moment, you just got to go out. Whatever happens, the horse runs away, your saddle breaks, whatever happens, the audience gets a live show.
what amazes me about it is that how small you can be in a large arena and have every single person be right there with you. It's powerful.
One night with you is like heaven. Go out and walk in the floor. I listen for steps in the hallway.
I've been a Western history person for many years, and I knew some things about Buffalo Bill. And I always thought that Tasso should play him, because the one difference is he has a bigger nose than I do. Tasso and Buffalo Bill. But I saw Tasso did play it, I think, once or twice for us, and I never did. And then it came to Naperville in 1997, where I was helping do the show with John Mills, and Mills said, "So you're going to play Buffalo Bill, right?" And I went, I don't know. Tasso's not here, and yeah, I guess I should. And then I looked at his birth date again and went, February 26th, and he went, "You're playing him."
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, to America's favorite Wild West show. And it is with the greatest pleasure that I am to introduce to you Annie Oakley, ladies and gentlemen. Please rise in the respect for the leader of his Indian nation, Chief Rain in the Face. The man we believe actually fired the shot that killed General George Custer in the Battle of Little Bighorn. Chief Rain in the Face, ladies and gentlemen. And now, good people, the man you've all been waiting for, a Buffalo Bill Cody! There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, America's favorite Wild West show. Charlie Keys, let's take it up a level. Pony Express, man, there it is.
Alright, what Ned has in his hand is what's known as a bullwhip. Very, very old. It was designed by the ancient Egyptians to help motivate the workforce.
A large bag of gold. Oh, yes it is. Give us all the money. Oh my God, the money. But moving right along, the cavalry introduced the Springfield Trapdoor Carbine. Here, the idea behind it was a single shot, a single kill. Here's a quicker weapon to operate at any rate than the cap and ball. Of course, there were always times when the bow was quicker. Bill, you certainly do know how to make an entrance.
Thank you, dead soldier.
No, Cole, don't like the dynamite. Cole, dynamite! Oh, no, Cole, why did you?
Thanks for inviting me. I had a blast.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, America's favorite Wild West show.